I'm standing here with Dr. Johnny Hunter, the National Director of Learn. And what's the website for that, by the way?
www.learnorg.org. But the best one is www.learnsummit.org.
LearnSummit.org, okay.
And the Northwest has the best one of all, www.blackgenocide.org.
I've seen that one. And as a matter of fact, Day Gardner and I have been talking a lot about your projects, and she's often said that you and I need to hook up sooner or later so that we can help try to get your word out here through these types of efforts.
Okay.
And the luncheon today is pretty powerful. We had some good pro-life leaders in there. And what did you think about that?
It was excellent, because when the leaders come together, we can have a meeting of minds, and everybody can be on the same page. And it encourages people. You know, I just finished talking to a sister, Sally Williams, who's very new to the pro-life movement. And yet her bishop has actually opened the door. They made an appeal to the church, any woman that's post-aborted that wants to be helped. And she ended up with 15 women that came into her program.
Wow.
Right, you know, and they said they had no idea
that there's so many women out there.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so for her to come up here, a brand new person in the pro-life movement, and to see some of the leaders here and making a difference, and hear Congressman Chris Smith speak like he did, and hear Jesse Peterson, this encourages her. Yeah. This encourages her. There were people in there today who sit back very quietly, but they are real intense.
Taking it all in.
Yes. Brother Peters, he said, "Oh, Brother John is one of my heroes, but I have heroes too." And like LaVon Ewell, that gentleman sat back in the back, that black pastor from Ypsilanti, Michigan, and in 1989, just as I was getting started in the pro-life movement, he was into it full bloom.
Oh, really?
That black pastor held the first black rescue in the United States. Him and his church actually went in and did a sit-in in an abortion clinic. They chained themselves inside the abortion clinic.
Oh, back in those days, there we go.
In East Lansing, Michigan. And they kept it out of the newspapers. The newspaper didn't let know the blacks that went in and did this, so they kept it hush-hush. And but I look at somebody like Pastor Ewell in a day
it's inspiring.
Yes. This fellow was already out there fighting the battle. And he's probably one of the best speakers for pro-life there is even to this day. I would really, if there was a person more like Martin Luther King, is him.
Really?
And yet, that gentleman sit back in the back while the rest of us were getting all our accolades and people were talking good about it. He just quietly sit back in the back enjoying every moment of it.
It's great.
Those are God's people in there. So that's what makes it real powerful for me. And plus, being here today, we got to do some strategies we didn't make public. Just sitting around the table, you come up with some really great ideas. Excellent. Especially when you got Albedo King next to you.
Right.
And so we've done that.
Well, that sounds great, and I feel blessed by having been a part of this today. So I look forward to working with all of the leaders in the pro-life movement, and the prolifeunity.com is one effort that we're working on to try to unite us, find our common bonds, figure out where we can work together.
Yes.
I know that even in the pro-life movement there are divisions, but we've got to realize we got to get over those.
Yes. No, not all of them. It all depends who becomes president. If we get a person who's very pro-life as president, I'll say let's unite as tight as we can. Be as tight as we can. If we get somebody that ain't really on our side at all, God will use the division to protect us. He really will. So they can't just hit in one basket and get us all together.
I haven't thought of that before. So I often say, I wonder what God has thinking. What the thought is behind this, and you just gave me an angle I hadn't thought of.
Yes. Because a lot of times, but what is important, no matter what part of the pro-life movement we're doing, everybody's really got to carry their weight. I think what has happened to the pro-life movement has never been the divisions in it. It's been that different groups have dropped the ball on their particular part of what they were doing. There are groups that need to be grassroots, that need to be out there on the street. streets. There's groups that need to help the crisis pregnancy centers. I call them women's help centers. There's groups out there that really need to help the post-aborted women. There are groups out there that really need to hit the abstinence message hard than ever. There are groups that need to work right here in Washington and in other places across this nation, in the state legislative houses, making sure that the right legislation is getting through, blocking stuff that is bad, putting the word out on things that are good, doing its best to hold up the political end of this, doing their best even if they can change the Supreme Court. There are groups that need to be doing that. And at the same time, there's groups that need to be doing some little things that it's just not popular at all. There's groups that actually need to start letting churches know. Churches, we're going to be lost, brothers. A lot of people don't understand it. History does not necessarily judge people by their particular greatness. It judges them by what were they doing in the time of a national crisis and perilous time in a global situation. We know Corrie ten Boom because in a time when Hitler was out there doing some devastating things, her and her family, her father especially, was helping hide Jewish people, preventing them from the Holocaust. She's judged by one of the most toughest times in history. We look at people like Harriet Tubman. Harriet Tubman came up during a time when slavery, it's one of the most worst things for this nation. Is an ugly part of American history. And yet her legacy comes out of that. And now we live in a time, you got abortion. One of the worst things ever that's ever hit this nation and this world. It's barbaric. It was the worst. And if people don't rise up at this point about it, their names will be forgotten. And I don't mind the history books forgetting my name. I am concerned if my name is not written in the Lamb's Book of Life. Very concerned. And the bad part about it, a lot of pastors don't know it, but they were called to look out for the people that God gives them as under shepherd. They get to actually shepherd a flock of God's people. And they're responsible for the lambs. They're responsible for the lambs. And there's no way, after having this many millions of children die.
Let me go ahead and move this out of the way a little bit here.
They are pastors who are going to have to give an account to God. Why, when they were pastors, they allowed somebody in their congregation to die?